I'm not presenting on my own laptop. I just want to preface with that. So we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to do some live coding later, so interesting. Hi, my name is Cyd, and I'm a freelance creative developer and teacher from Amsterdam. And I love motion, and also I love confetti, as you can see. So I'm a freelancer, which means that I usually work on projects by myself, which is why it's actually great to be at a conference like these, where I actually get to talk to other people or developers. And another place that I get to do that is at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, where I work as a part-time teacher at minor web design and development and the associate degree front-end design and development. So I get paid to talk about my passion, which is front-end development. And it's totally okay to use Comic Sans in rainbow letters, by the way, if you've never heard. Completely fine. So my colleagues and students are kind of the reason that I'm standing here in the first place, because I was really comfortable animating everything with JavaScript, but we really try to encourage our students to try out the newest techniques like anchor positioning and scroll-driven animations. And my students were starting to ask me questions about that I didn't really have the answers to, and I'm not sure if you've ever been in a room full of Gen Zers that think you're a little bit stupid. It's not fun. So at the end of 2024, I decided to rebuild my entire portfolio with scroll-driven animations and view transitions, and also to write about them on my blog. And I was so pleasantly surprised by how relatively easy, very complex concepts had been made with just CSS. And I've built a lot of JavaScript-heavy websites over the years, and I will do that in the future, don't worry. But I really want to see how far I could get it with just CSS. So then we come to the title of this talk. You might not need JavaScript, which is a not so subtle reference, of course, to you might not need jQuery.com. And if you're familiar with that, how much does your back hurt in the morning, guys? Because it's been there for a while. So it used to be a website that listed all the jQuery functionality that you could actually already do with JavaScript. And this talk kind of does the same thing for JavaScript animations. So why should you move from JavaScript solutions to CSS solutions for at least some of your animations, in my opinion? Well, JavaScript runs on the main thread, which is the scary place where browsers process user events, CSS repaints, and reflows. And this means that it can potentially block other processes while it's being executed. And this usually doesn't happen, especially if you know what you're doing. But this could block your entire website. CSS, however, runs on its own separate thread, which means that it can't block other processes. And it's also just in the browser. You don't have to load a library or anything. So it's just better. So let's go to my portfolio. Let's see if it loads here. Yes, all right. So I build a new portfolio every year. Some people join the gym. I build a new portfolio. That's my New Year's resolution every year. And because view transitions and scroll-driven animations is what I'm going to be talking about mostly, and they are built on CSS keyframe animations. So they work really well together with other transitions and keyframe animations. So when I refresh, you can see the CSS 3D box animating up and spewing out some kind of confetti stuff. And I also have this font at the top, which is also in my presentation. And it's actually a variable font that I added a y-axis to. And with CSS, you can animate the font variant setting. So I can animate it on scroll. Oh yeah, his scroll is reversed, which is first sign of psychopathy, I think. Right. So I have some more scroll-driven animations, because you don't need JavaScript to create something like this. You just need a details element. So that's fine. And we also have some view transitions, of course. So stuff like that. And that's fun, right? Like this line is also a view transition. And what if I told you this entire website was built in WordPress? It's fine, it is, but no one knows. So let's start with scroll-driven animations. They are actually supported in Edge, in Chrome, and in Safari. They are not yet supported in Firefox, unfortunately. Hopefully they will be very soon. They are working on it. And scroll-driven animations are built on CSS keyframe animations, and this is a simple example of a keyframe animation. I'm using the animation shorthand here. The name is clip in. The keyframes, it's a bit small, I think. Is this better? All right, we have the name clip in. We have some keyframes for clip in as well, where I'm animating from an inset of 0 to an inset of 25%. I also have a duration of 1 second, and I have a timing function and a fill mode. So when I actually show you the animation, oh, just want to, yes. Beautiful, right? This is what you want. If I want to turn this into a scroll-driven animation, it's actually really, really easy, because all I need to do is change out the animation duration of 1 second to an animation timeline. So I've got some HTML here, which is a little bit hard to see, but I've got 2 images, one with the class basic and one with the class scroll-driven. And those are referenced in my CSS. So for the basic one, I'm just using the animation duration that I used before, which is 1 second. And then I have an animation timeline of view for the second one. And the animation is completely the same, but you will notice that I've written out all the animation properties instead of using the animation shorthand. And that's because animation timeline is not supported in the animation shorthand yet. So good to know. Oh yeah, this happens sometimes. It's fine. So we have the basic animation on top. And then we have a scroll-driven animation, so I can go up and go down. It doesn't really matter. It just keeps on giving. All right. So another cool thing that you can do is add ranges to your animation. Or not really cool. It's kind of useful and essential for scroll-driven animations. And there's 4 named ranges. So there's contain, cover, entry, and exit. And the contain range, it runs as soon as the element starts to, or is completely in view in the viewport, and it ends when the element is hitting the top of the viewport. Then we have the cover range, which starts as soon as the element starts to enter the viewport, and it ends when the element is completely out of view, so it's great for parallax animations and stuff. The entry range runs as soon as the element starts to enter the viewport, and then it ends when it's completely in view. And we also have the exit range, which starts as soon as the element starts to leave the viewport, which is, exit is a good name for that. And then it's done when the element is completely out of view. But let's actually see what that looks like in code. So I've got some HTML. That's not really interesting part of this thing. I've got a slightly different animation. So this is a clip from left animation. It's going to clip like this. I also do my own sound effects, so get ready. I have an animation timing function and a fill mode, but the important part here is that I'm using an animation range of contain. So let's see what that looks like. So, oh yeah, inverted scroll. Jesus. So it starts when it's completely in view, and then it ends when it hits the top of the viewport. Let's see the cover range. So this starts when the element starts to enter the viewport, and it ends when the element is completely out of view. Entry. And then it starts when it enters, and it ends when it's completely in view. And the last one is exit, which starts as soon as the element starts to leave the viewport, then it ends when it's completely out of view. And the even cooler thing is that you can combine these ranges. It's also the more confusing part, but it's also cool. So let's start on the cover range and end on the contain range. So this means that we're starting on the cover start range, but we're ending on the contain end range. So now we're going to, so it starts as soon as the element starts to become in view, and it ends when the element hits the top of the viewport, whereas if we use the cover end range, it would have ended right here. We can also use any CSS unit that we want, but let's start boring and go with percentages. So we're going to start the range at cover 10%. So that means that it will start the range as if it had already played 10%. And then it still ends on the cover 100% range, because that's the default, and that's a really, really good default. So we can also add any other CSS units. I'm not sure if anyone has any preferences, something you want to try? I thought centimeters would be cool, so let's start at cover 3 centimeters. Very useful, right? For your print styles or something, I don't know. So now it starts at 3 centimeters, which is perfect. We can also add an end range, of course. So now we can end at the cover 4 or 5 centimeters. Let's do 5 centimeters. And now our animation is really quick, because it already ends at 5 centimeters. The only thing you can't do is have the end range be larger than the start range. Oh no, the end range be smaller than your start range. So let's say I put this at 6 centimeters, then your animation will just flash. And it kind of makes sense if you think about it, but this is an issue if you're planning to combine few heights and few widths, for example, which is a bad idea anyway. But if you do, you'll probably run into this, that your animation is going to flash at some viewport size. So what kind of JavaScript animations can we actually replace with this? So non-essential animations, for start, because, of course, it's not supported in Firefox yet. I did write an article about it. You can find that with the QR code, and I hope it works in inverted version, because I also made my slides darker in the break before. It's all going very well, as planned. It's also perfect for scrubbing animations, and those are animations that play between 2 points on the page. So you have to consider that you're adding animation that can be stopped at any time. So it needs to look good at 0%, at 10%, at 79%. It needs to look good the whole time. It's also perfect for appear animations that you want to play every time a user scrolls by it, because it's currently not yet suitable for animations that only play once. You can do that, hopefully in the future. Also, scroll-triggered animations is going to be a separate thing that's going to be added. I think you can already test it in all the test browsers, but I don't like to do that. And a scroll-triggered animation is slightly different from scroll-driven, because scroll-triggered is triggered by a certain point on the page, but it will still play on a time-based timeline, so a duration of, for example, one second. It's also not yet suitable for WebGL or Canvas animations, but I'm very curious about like HTML and Canvas, because then we might be able to put keyframes on the HTML elements and then do fun stuff. Very exciting. So let's go on to view transitions, which are currently supported in all major browsers. Yay. And view transitions used to only be available on SPAs or single-page apps, and those are apps that handle routing using JavaScript instead of just using links for some reason. And they are now also available in some browsers on MPAs. They also call that multiple-page apps, but you might be more familiar with RFWs, or regular fucking websites. Yes. These are also known as cross-document view transitions, I believe. So you can use view transitions to create page transitions in Chrome, in Edge, and in Safari, but not yet in Firefox, because the add view transition CSS rule is not supported there yet. So for view transitions, you do need a little bit of JavaScript. So don't throw away all your JavaScript knowledge, just so, like, I'm not sure if you were planning that, but you never know. So view transitions are kind of based on, or kind of similar to flip animation technique, which was something that was thought up by Paul Lewis, and it stands for first, last, invert, play. And what happens is it records the start transforms of an element, it then applies the end transforms, and then it inverts those transforms to make it look like it has never moved. And then the removal of those transforms is what's actually animated, which sounds really convoluted and weird and crazy, but it was actually much more performant to remove transforms than to add them. And also these calculations were usually done within the first 100 milliseconds of when a user enters a page. So it wasn't really noticeable. And view transitions kind of do the same thing, where they compare one version with the other version and check if there's any change in position, rotation, or sizing. So by default, when you create a view transition, there will be a snapshot made of the first state, a snapshot of the second state, and the browser will compare if there's any change in position, sizing, and rotation, and will crossfade and transform between the two states. But by default, the browser will make a snapshot of the root element, which is the same as the HTML element. So it's the exact same size, exact same position, and exact same rotation. Yeah, so it just crossfades, which is nice, but probably not what you expected. So to call a view transition with CSS, between your pages, you say add view transition, and you set navigation to auto, which doesn't work in Firefox. But to call a view transition with JavaScript, you say document.start view transition, and then you call function, and you say, you do the thing you want to do within. So you remove items, or add items, or change the order of items, or the position of items. The only thing you don't really have to do is create the actual animation there. So let's go into a simple example. Sorry for your eyes. This is hot pink. Does anyone like hot pink? Any other favorite? Yes, hot pink. Love hot pink. OK, so let's zoom this into. So if you're not familiar, in the Chrome DevTools, you actually have some animation debugging tools. So if you go Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P and you type animations, then you get this animations panel, which is very useful. So let's see what that crossfade actually looks like in the browser. So it looks something like this. A little bit of a crossfade going on, but let's make that a lot clearer. Let's go to the About page again. well, that's a crossfade, right? So we can slow down animations with this, and we can even pause it. But let's first switch to the moving animation. Switch, 100%, go. Ooh, not really what I wanted. Oh, this is what I wanted. Beautiful app-like stuff. Let's slow this down as well. Let's go back to home, and let's actually pause the animation. Because now we get to see that there's actually a view transition pseudo element added to the HTML. And this pseudo element will be there as long as your view transition is running. And you can inspect that, you can open that, you can do things with that. So for every named element on your page, every element that has a view transition name on your page, there will be a view transition group. And that view transition group is responsible for the kind of the flip part of the animation. So it will check the position, rotation, and sizing. Inside of the group, there's an image pair, and there's an old and a new state. And you can actually see those in the browser. Not sure if the contrast, yeah, you can see something changing. The only thing that you have to know is it's no longer HTML. It's kind of a screenshot of what used to be there, but a little bit more than a screenshot because it has a little bit more capabilities. But yeah, it's no longer interactive. You can't click it. You can't select text, nothing. So that's good to know. So as long as your view transition is going, your website will be not interactive. Kind of a big deal. So don't make them too long. The view transition old by default has a default animation of fade out and a mixed blend mode. And the new one has an animation of fade in and a mixed blend mode. And I overwrote them, that's why they're crossed out. But that's actually, the mixed blend mode is actually why the image pair is here. It's purely here for this line, isolation, isolate, because otherwise your mixed blend modes would mix with other stuff on your page, and you don't want that. So we have the old and the new state. And you can see I changed the old state animation with a move out animation that animates from translate y0 to -100%, and the new one from 100% to 0. And that's basically all I did to create this effect. So pretty powerful with very little code. So if you would name items instead of just doing the bare minimum, you get, if you name 2 items on different pages or in different states, then the browser knows those two are connected, and it will automatically animate to the next state. So you don't really have to do anything else with it. The rest of the page will still be part of the root view transition, which is also great because it will just crossfade out and in again, which is nice. So let's actually look at some view transition code. So I've got a view transition name here of VT, and that references a style attribute that I added to both of my buttons. So I have a button with a VT variable of item 1 and item 2, because I'm so original. These view transition names need to be unique. If your view transition names are not unique, then your view transitions will not work. I thought the world ended there, but it's fine. I also have some, these are buttons, and when you click them, I'm going to check if document.start view transition is supported. If it is supported, I'm starting my view transition, and all I'm doing within the view transition is toggling a class. The class expanded, which changes the width from 100 pixels to 200 pixels, so it just makes it a little bit wider. If view transitions are not supported, I'm still toggling the class, it will just not be animated, which is a fine fallback. So let's see. That's actually what that looks like. And the video also just keeps playing. So it's a little bit smarter than a regular screenshot or snapshot. It's kind of, it allows videos to play at least. So kind of cool. So the old and new states of view transitions are also really interesting because the transforms all happen in the group and it gets all the credit. But whether a group has an old and a new state kind of depends on if the item was added, if it was removed, or if it was already there. So if you're filtering or sorting, if you're sorting, for example, and you're just changing the order of elements, the item will exist in the old state and it will exist in the new state. So it will both have a view transition old and new state. And I've represented those with a red rectangle for the old state and a green rectangle for the new state. So when you sort and the items exist in the first and the second state, they will have both old and new view transitions. However, if you filter items out, then the items exist in the old state, but they don't exist in the new state. So they have a view transition old, but not a view transition new. And I promise I'm getting somewhere. So as you can see, the first one, for example, it doesn't exist in the new state, so it doesn't have the green rectangle of the view transition new. The same happens when you filter items back in, then they don't exist in the old state, so they don't have a view transition old, but they do exist in the new state, so they do have a view transition new. This is really, really useful, because of course we have confetti again. I'm actually now using a view transition name of match element, because you don't really have to manually set view transition names on elements anymore if you're doing same document view transition. So if you're not switching pages, you can just add match elements, much easier. And then the browser will take care of the naming for you. I have added a view transition class as well, so I can style all these items the same way. In my JavaScript, when you click the reverse button, I call a view transition, and when I add an item, I also call a view transition, and I do some more code, but it's not that clean, so I'm just not going to show you. When I add an item, you can see that it crossfades in. And that could be cooler, right? Maybe a scale in or something. Maybe we are going even more crazy. So to style that, I'll need to get view transition new. And then I'm going to call my view transition, or going to reference my view transition class. And I'm going to only select the only child. So if a view transition group has both a view transition old and new, that would mean that the view transition new has a sibling. If it's an only child, it means that the old one is missing. So that's what we can use to create this animation. OK, let's create an animation and call it scale in. Oh, let's use animation name so we're not overwriting any of the default values because I'm bored. I'm lazy. OK, so let's go keyframes, scale in. This is the boring part, I'm just typing. OK, and then from, oh, not like that. Scale 0. And we don't really have to add a 2 because it will just do that by default. So let's add an item. Nice. So only the new items get this animation. When I reverse the order or anything else, it will just do the regular animation. If I remove the only child part, you can see that even though these items aren't moving places or aren't being added or removed or anything, they still have that view transition name, so they will still have a view transition new item. So by adding the only child thing, you can make sure to animate only the new ones. Pretty cool. OK, so what kind of JavaScript animations can we replace with this? So page transitions, kind of, because it doesn't work in Firefox. But if it doesn't work, it's fine, because it will just still go to the next page. It will just not be animating. It's also perfect, of course, for JavaScript-triggered flip animations. But it's not suitable again, or not yet suitable again for WebGL or Canvas animations, because we really need items that we can put keyframes on. And also, it's not suitable for animations that change the content of the elements, because we're basically dealing with images. So, are you ready for the fun stuff? All right. Of course. Oh, I hope you have a live server. I'm going to download the package, all right? OK. Live server. I'm just a little bit lazy, and this is much easier. Trust. Go live. All right, OK, this one. Let's go to /JSHeroes. Oh, yeah, I need to switch branches. It's all fine. We're doing well. Git, checkout. Yes. You got a little spoiler there. Please forget everything you saw. All right, I'm going to stop this being full screen. All right, so we have a conference website here because I think that's what I do now. So that's what we have, and we're going to animate the living shit out of this. So we're going to start with this header because I thought it would be cool to have like the JSHeroes kind of like word art. Remember word art? We were so whimsical in the past. So I want to put it on an arc, and to be able to do that, you need kind of two things. You need a number between 0 and 1 for each letter, and you also need a sign function. And we can get both with just CSS now, because sibling index returns a number between the index for each letter, and sibling count returns the total amount of letters. So that way we can get a number between 0 and 1 for each letter, and we have a sign function in CSS for a while now. So let's close. Live CSS. Oh, this is way too small. How about this? Better, all right. Okay, so I have two CSS variables, sibling index and sibling count, and you currently need to declare them as variables. You can't just use the sibling index thing itself when you're doing calculations with it, because there's a bug in Safari. But they are fixing it, so it's going to be fine in the next version. I'm getting that sibling index, and I'm removing 1, because guess what? Do you think that sibling index in CSS will start with 0? Or 1? It's 1. So I need to divide. I need to remove 1 from that number. I'm dividing it by the sibling count, also -1, but that's normal. You would do that in JavaScript as well. And then I save that all in a CSS variable I. I'm going to use that CSS variable in a sine calc, where I'm getting 180 degrees, and I'm going to multiply that by the number between 0 and 1, because then I get a certain point on the sine arc, I guess. And I'm going to, you see all my notes now, that's fine. I'm going to show you how we're actually going to do this. Okay, so we're going to transform all the spans within the H2, and we're going to say translate Y. Calc var sin calc times 10%. And then let's see what that looks like. We get a very slight arc. Pretty underwhelming, right? All right, that's because the actual numbers that it generates are very close together. And I would show you, but I don't have time. So believe me, the numbers are very small. So to make those numbers a little bit bigger, what we're going to do is we're going to add a multiplier. So I have a CSS variable multiplier, which value is 7 at this point. Is that how I wrote it, or did I do it incorrectly? I think it's like this. I also need to add this right here. So var multiplier. Yes, okay. So it's a huge arc now. It's a bit too big, actually. We might want to rethink that 180-degree part. So let's actually do that. I need a start angle, which is going to be 30 degrees. So instead of 180 degrees, I want the arc to be like a span of 150 degrees. But I need that to start at 30 degrees and end at 150 degrees. So, oh yes, that's exactly what I want. Is that what I want? Nope, nope, no, I don't want that at all. All right, kind of, I want 180 degrees minus var angle times 2, I think. I have a note somewhere, it's going to be fine if I mess this up. And then I'm going to say var start angle plus var angle. This is, yeah, nope. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yes, oh, yes, thank you. You're the best. All right. I'm not sure if you remember the previous arc, but it was way heavier. But now it's way too much high up. So what we're going to do, I found this out very recently, like embarrassingly recently. You can add multiple translate Ys to a transform function. I mean, did you all know that and you just didn't tell me? Or, all right. So we can just move it down a little bit. Let's scroll up again. Oof, yeah, we're right at the top. So now we have a nice little arc, but we can make it even cooler because we could like flare out like the outer letters. And we could use a sign calculation for that because sign starts at +1 and it ends at -1. It goes like whoop. That's the sound effects I was talking about. But we kind of need to reverse that number in order to get the right calculations, but no time for that. We're just going to add the rotate. That's why I have this cosine calc, which I also need to add this part too. All right. And then we have var, oh, let's calculate first. Var cos calc times 3, oh yes, that's what I want, thank you. Lovely. But now the letters are touching, and we don't want that. We want translate x, to add a translate x of also a calc. And we're also going to use the cosine calc. And we're going to add 10% or something. Is that right? Yeah, much better. Oh yeah, lovely. Okay, but now it's just stationary, and as you can see, like when I refresh, the bear does its work. It's nicely animating in and stuff. So we're going to emulate that, and we're instead of using a transform, we're going to use animation. So we're actually just going to use this. I'm not going to type anymore. No time for typing. Okay, so I'm using my expand animation, and instead of animating. That's just what I'm doing. So the expand animation takes 1.5 seconds, just a regular animation, no scroll-driven things yet. So now we have this. Okay. But now on scroll, nothing happens, and that's ridiculous. So we're going to actually animate the multiplier value that we had before. So that number that's by default that's 7, we're going to make that bigger. So we're going to do that right here. So first of all, I need to add a view timeline name to the page header. Timeline name. And I'm also going to call it page header because I'm very professional. Don't fix what isn't broken. All right, so view timeline name. Because that way I don't use the individual spans for the letters as the scroll trigger, but I'm using the entire page header, which is much better because then I can be sure that they all animate at the same time. So I need to add this. Let's just go like this. Caps lock is on. Oop. Let's go. So we're adding an animation name, scroll multiplier, which changes the multiplier from 7 to 20, and we're referencing our animation timeline page header, and I think I also need to add animation range. Not sure what the value should be. Oh, this one. Let's go. Okay, so now we have, okay, it's a bit weird, forgive me. Whoop! Woo! Woo! Crazy. Okay. I have much more to show you, but let's just do this all at once. I was planning to do this all at once, so this is not the bad part. Okay, so we have this world now that can like orbit the Cluj-Napoca thing, and we have the rocket that goes over your screen. Okay, one more thing. We're going to animate this marquee up because it's annoying, and like when we scroll down, we want to make sure that it goes up. And you don't need JavaScript for that anymore, at least if you're in Chrome or Edge. So what we're going to use is inside of the prefers reduced motion tag. I haven't mentioned this a lot yet, but make sure that you don't add animation when people have a preference for no motion. So we're going to add a container name of scroller and a container type of scroll state. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, and then we're going to, okay, I'm just going to do this because we have a little time. So it's so new that your editor won't recognize this, but scroll state is a new thing that you can use in container queries, and it's so, so cool, because now we can check if the user is scrolling to the bottom. So when the user is scrolling to the bottom, I'm animating the marquee up 100%, and I'm actually going to make this 101%, because otherwise you see a tiny little pixel, and it really annoys the shit out of me. So now, when we scroll down, it disappears, and when we scroll up again, it reappears. But we can do even one more useful thing with this, because as you can see, the rocket, when you go down, it goes to the right. But when you go up again, it doesn't turn around. That's weird. So let's fix that. So I added another container query that actually checks if we're scrolling up. So I do that with block start instead of block end, which is kind of nice. Because, okay, so now the editor is yelling at me. I'm just rotating the SVG based on the scroll direction. So when we scroll down, it goes to right, and then woo, woo, woo. I also wanted to animate this, but I don't think we have time. So, but you, in this version, in this QR code, you can find the finished version. So CSS is awesome, and view transitions and scroll-driven animations are awesome, and it's great that we are able to create animations that are more. I really need my notes for this slide. It's like the inspirational stuff. Like it's great that our animations are going to be more the same around other browsers, and it's CSS. Yes, thank you.